It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. You can also email me, randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. We've made it to the end of another week. It is the kickoff to Memorial Day weekend. I hope you all have something really fun planned. Maybe you're going to go traveling. Maybe you're going to stay in town and see some friends. Maybe you're going to have a barbecue. It is always good times for that. I'm hoping to be done with this cold that I've had the last few days so I can explore the outside world because I have not left my house outside to walk the dogs in 5 days. But it's okay because I did a lot of living last week. And I want to tell you all about my vacation to Puerto Rico. My first time ever going to the Caribbean, and of course, my first time going to Puerto Rico, and it definitely won't be my last time. It is totally open phones here on a Happy Hour Friday. You can call in right now and talk about anything we talked about this week, anything you think we should have talked about. You can call in right now, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, and I always love to throw out a happy hour topic. So I got a couple of them for you. One, if you've ever been to Puerto Rico, I'd love to talk to you about it because it was such a magical experience for me. But also, at one point, I'm going to tell you about one of the best beach experiences I've ever had in my life. And I'd love to talk beaches. As we're heading into summer, I'd love to know the best beach you've ever been to. Could be a local beach, could be a beach somewhere around the country, somewhere around the world. Tell me about the greatest beach you've ever visited, because I've only been to a few incredible beaches in my life, and I need to go to more. I got to add more items to my bucket list. That's what we like to do here. 800-222-KABC. As an aside, you know what was so great last night? I am talking about some summer travel plans that my wife and I are going to be taking. We're going to be up in the Bay Area in July, and we're trying to figure out places that we can go to that we've never been before. And I was like, hey, why don't I listen to that podcast of the show we did a couple weeks ago with all the suggestions of places to travel to in California? And this was so cool. I went to the News Blitz on Apple Podcasts, and I don't know if the other apps do this, but Apple does. It literally can pull up an entire transcript of the show. And so I can listen to the whole thing, but I can also scroll through the text to see all the suggestions that our listeners put down in that episode. And if you missed that one, it was on Friday, May 10th. It was one of the best happy hours we've ever done. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I've got to check out Death Valley. I've got to check out Carlsbad. I've got to check out Carmel. And I wrote down every single one of those, and it's a great resource. So go back to that and listen. But, you know, we're planning different things, and I'd love to be able to, like we did with that, find out more places that have more incredible beaches that I could be visiting. Hopefully places that aren't too far away. Because one of the great things that I found out about Puerto Rico, it doesn't take that long to get there. But anyway, you want to talk about beaches or anything else, give me a call. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. So we were planning this trip for quite a while. And we wanted to do a big beach vacation. Last year, we went to Maui, and it was magical. And we actually, you know, we got to experience Maui and Lahaina about 6 months before the fire. So we get to treasure those memories before that horrific tragedy. But we love the fact that it was spring and we could go swimming and be in the sun every day. We wanted to try something similar, but also different. And a couple of friends wanted to travel as well. They were really feeling Caribbean. And so we were trying to do research. What would really make sense for us for Caribbean? Because I don't know. I've never been one to just be like, I'm going to book a week at a resort and I'm going to hang out at a resort. Maybe that would be fun. For me, there's something about being able to walk around in local towns, experience local culture, and there's something about local food. The thing that was kind of a turnoff to me, and again, I could be wrong, about going to, let's say, like a fancy resort in Punta Cana or a fancy resort in Cancun is it's a lot of international cuisine, and it's a lot of, like, sure, there's going to be a great Asian restaurant and a great Italian restaurant, but is there going to be the local dining and that local culture that I'm looking into? So we were actually sitting at a bar in Woodland Hills at Joey's, and we were talking about where we would want to go. Do we want to go to Dominican Republic? Do we want to go to Jamaica? And the woman who was serving us drinks, which, by the way, their passion fruit margaritas are spectacular at Joey, she's like, oh, you guys are talking Caribbean. I've been to all the islands. What do you want to know? And I'm like, what was the most fun, the best food, the best experience? And she said, have you thought about Puerto Rico? And we hadn't at that point, and Puerto Rico, even easier to get than most of these other countries because Puerto Rico is part of the United States. It is an American territory. You don't even need a passport to get there. So we started aligning what week would work best for us, and then we found the deal to beat all deals because we thought it would make the most sense because you've got to fly in two legs. You got to fly to Miami, then you got to fly to San Juan. And that flight to Miami, we thought if we could figure out an overnight out of LAX and sleep, that would really save half a travel day. And if we could make it work, it'd be nice to fly on a nice seat where we could sleep. And we found the deal to beat all deals. Like if it was any more expensive than this, we wouldn't have gone for it. But we found on a Saturday night going into Sunday, and this was going into Mother's Day Sunday, flying from LA to Miami, an American Airlines flight where round trip with the flight there, plus the flight to San Juan and the flights back, but it's only business class going there. The whole thing was under $800 a person. It was crazy. We could not pass that up. And I got to experience business class for the first time. And oh boy, is it hard to go back after that experience. Although I will say, we had lie flat seats, but I could not properly figure out how to use them. So I was more in like a recline seat, but it's the first time I ever was able to sleep on a plane. And that was pretty cool. Also, found out that the business class ticket gives you access to the airport lounge at American. And I had never experienced that before, where you've got all this food and drink you can have. And there's like a self-serve bar. You can make yourself cocktails. And of course, because I'm all concerned about trying to make sure I sleep, I make everyone a sleep tea in the lounge because they had sleep tea ready to go. And they had a Bloody Mary bar. And the Bloody Mary bar, as condiments to Bloody Marys, had all of these like meat sticks, like those chomp bars. There's like turkey sticks and pepperoni sticks. And they're just sitting there. And the thing with the lounge is you can just take whatever you want. So I filled my backpack with about 10 of those meat sticks, and I was good for provisions for the entire trip. Anyway, got to sleep. We land in Miami at like 8 in the morning, take the next flight to San Juan, where we had maybe the greatest flight attendant of our lives. This was another business class, but this wasn't a lie flat seat. Again, this whole thing was $800 round trip. It was crazy good deal. And this bartender was definitely trying to serve us as much as he possibly could. I asked for a Bloody Mary. He gave me a double. My wife asked for a mimosa, and they're like, I think we're out of mimosas. It's like, okay, how about a vodka cranberry? He brings her back a mimosa and a vodka cranberry, and at one point, she's like, I got to stop because once we get to the airport, I'm driving. And then he handed us 2 giant cold bottles of water to take with us off the plane. That guy was amazing. So we land in San Juan, and we had a Jeep ready to meet us as we drove to the complete other side of the island. San Juan is on the north side of Puerto Rico. We were all the way on the west coast for the first couple of days. I had found an Airbnb on the west coast of Puerto Rico in Cabo Rojo because once we decided we were going to Puerto Rico, and this is one of the cool things you can do in today's age, you can do so much research. And you could do research on blogs, you can read up on Reddit, you can talk to friends and family, or you can just watch a ridiculous amount of YouTube videos. And that's what we did. We watched so many YouTube videos. And for the good 3 months we were planning this trip, every night we're like, check this out. Doesn't this look fun? Looking at walking tours of Boquerón and Bouillet and Crash Boat Beach and looking at all these incredible places. So we settled on a place central to the north and the southern west part of Puerto Rico, this little town called Joyuta, which I guess is the seafood capital of Puerto Rico. And this Airbnb was pretty awesome. It was right on the water. It had a dock in the backyard. Now, the dock was public, but like most people weren't using it, except for the day we got there, which was Mother's Day Sunday, and it was packed, and we were like, oh, I don't know what we're in for. Also, as somebody who's born and raised in Southern California, I was not mentally prepared for 90 degrees plus 100% humidity. I got used to it after a couple days, and being in the water all the time definitely helps. But the first day was definitely an adjustment. But the fact that we were in a house that was right on the water and you could get in the water right away. And that was one of the reasons we wanted to be on the West Coast. We wanted to explore some of the pristine, gorgeous Caribbean beaches. I had never been to a Caribbean beach. I had never seen this teal see-through water. I've seen Hawaiian water, and that's pretty fantastic. And I know we got nice beaches here, but I like warm water. I really do. I mean, it doesn't have to be warm. It just, the Pacific Ocean outside of like a week in July is freezing cold, at least in my opinion. So we spent the next couple of days traveling up and down the West Coast, checking out some of the big beach areas like Crassboat Beach, which is a super fun place. And there's plenty of people doing water sports. But, you know, what I'm looking for when it comes to a beach for me, I don't even want to lay out. I want to put my stuff down. I want to go in the water. I want to swim. I love swimming in the ocean. There's something so relaxing. It feels so good. And Crash Boat was a wonderful beach. And you could walk around and there were little shops all over the place. And we thought we probably need cash for everything, which, by the way, it's Puerto Rico. It's part of the United States. It's United States currency. So we brought a bunch of cash, but it turns out it's the future. A lot of these little stands where you can get little pinchos, meat sticks, or you can get empanadas or drinks. Oh, the fact that you can buy cocktails right there on the beach is really special. Everyone takes Venmo. I love that everyone takes Venmo. And I got my first real introduction into mojitos. I mean, I knew coming into Puerto Rico, I was going to have a lot of pina coladas. I didn't know how much I was going to like a mojito. I just hadn't had them before. It's one of those categories of drinks I hadn't really enjoyed, and I got real used to it, especially anyone that did a passion fruit mojito. Just add that little extra tartness to it with the muddled mint and the rum, and oh, it was tasty. The fact that you're in 190-degree heat, but you can cool off in the beach, you can get a pina colada, it is a really good time. And then there's the other aspect of why we wanted to go to Puerto Rico over a lot of other places. I had heard so many things about Puerto Rican food, and it does not disappoint. It is so unique. It is so special. And there were several different restaurants we went to. On the West Coast in Joyuta, we went to a place called Hoy Como Ayer. And that was the first time I got to have proper mofongo. I didn't even know what mofongo was before this trip, and I am so into it. Mofongo, they take plantains, they fry them, they mash them with chicharrones, and then they top them with a different kind of meat. The first night that we were at this restaurant, Hoy Como Ayer, we did a mofongo topped with ropa vieja, so topped with like a shredded braised beef. Oh, it was incredible. And I knew that there would be things like plantains, and we had tostones. I didn't know that you get tostones topped with like fresh crab, and there's ceviche all over the place. Excuse me, ceviche. Oh, wow. The fresh ceviche, the fresh fish, just really incredible. Plus, the place that we were staying also had like different beach equipment that came with the Airbnb, which was a real added bonus. There were some problems we had with the place, but the fact that it had the beach equipment totally made up for it, because we were able to take beach chairs to every beach that we went to because it was right there. It was good to go. And the place that we're staying at, there were kayaks right there in the house, and I got to do kayaking. There was this little tiny island that you could paddle all the way to. We got about halfway before we were like, if I'm not that coordinated, if I fall out of this thing, it's going to be a nightmare getting back. But that was a really, really, really good time as well. We went up to Rincon, which is one of the big surfer areas. I didn't see any surfing, but if you go down in the morning, that's one of the big surfer beaches. I'm not a surfing person, obviously, if you've seen me. I like swimming in the beach, but I do love, and one of the great things about being on the west coast of Puerto Rico, every single night we were there, we saw a breathtaking, incredible sunset. And the sunset that we saw on Rincon as we were driving back from checking out Aguadilla, which is another great little town, a great little boardwalk, always looking for great places that you can walk around to and you can enjoy. The sunset at Rincon and enjoying that, walking around town there, finding some tapas restaurant and getting to try really interesting, like Puerto Rican, Spanish fusion food, like There were duck confit tacos in taro shells. Oh, those were really, really good. That was some Spanish wine. That was real tasty. Now, when we come back, as I tell you about my adventures in Puerto Rico in this incredible vacation, I'm going to tell you about my favorite beach that I went to on this vacation, which might be up there for the favorite beach I've ever been into in my life. I am not 100% certain it is, but I think it might be. But that's just me talking here. I'd also love to talk to you. It's totally open phones here on this Happy Hour Friday. If you've ever been to Puerto Rico, I'd love to talk to you about it. If you have a beach that you absolutely love, anywhere, could be a SoCal beach, could be a NorCal beach, could be a beach in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, anywhere around the world, the most incredible beach you've ever been to, tell me about it so I can add it to my bucket list. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. But I'm going to keep telling you about my vacation in Puerto Rico because I get a chance to, and it was so much fun. And if you've never been, I can't recommend it enough. It wasn't too expensive to stay there if you plan ahead, and I probably would go earlier in the year than we went this time because it was a little warm, but oh, the water was perfection. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Tell me about the favorite beach you've ever been to. 800-222-KABC. I'll keep telling you about my Puerto Rican vacation here on the News Blitz. It's Happy Hour. It's Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is happy hour. It is Friday. It is the kickoff to Memorial Day weekend. I can't wait to see what everyone is going to be doing, having a great time. If you got a good plans for Memorial Day weekend, tell me about them. 800-222-KABC. I'm telling you about my recent vacation to Puerto Rico, and I hope everyone, if you've never been, it is definitely worth your time. It was such a magical place, so much culture, so much history, and gosh, the beaches. I cannot say enough about those pristine West Coast Puerto Rican beaches, and I got a lot more to say about those beaches. However, if you think you can outdo me, if you've got a beach destination that you think is the best, that was your favorite, tell me all about it. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. What is the best beach you've ever beached? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. And let me get this out of the way because I'm totally going to forget. It's time for a prize. As a thank you for listening to this show, for participating, for sending emails, calling in, telling your friends, downloading the podcast, and just being a part of this experience. A thank you from us to you for your continued listenership and loyalty to 790 KABC. Here we go. 790 KABC welcomes Sarah McLachlan to the Hollywood Bowl on May 31st. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang. When we come back, I'm going to tell you about the greatest beach that I've ever been to. I'm saying it. It's happening. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It is totally open phones on a Happy Hour Friday. You can call in about anything and everything that we're talking about or anything you think we should be talking about, 800-222-KABC. And I'm giving you, as we kick off Memorial Day weekend, a sneak peek into what my week was like in Puerto Rico. That's where I was last week, and I'm still thinking about it every day. At some point, I got to post some pictures, but right now I've got this album that we share between the friends that went with us, and oh, those memories are ones that we made for a lifetime. But I am going to tell you about my favorite beach experience ever, and if you've got a favorite beach experience that you'd love to tell me about, because I need more things to add to my bucket list, you can do that by giving us a call. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You can email me as well. I read and respond to all your emails at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. So the third day that we were on the west coast of Puerto Rico in Cabo Rojo. We drove down about 15 minutes from where we were in Joyuda to Playa Buye. And we had looked up so many different top 10 lists of the best beaches in Puerto Rico. And boy, did we find a lot. And in fact, I didn't even know Puerto Rico, while they have a whole lot of great beaches on the main island, there are two smaller islands that you can also go to, and they're also supposed to have incredible beaches, and those are Culebra and Viejes. So at some point, we're going to have to go back and try Culebra and Viejes because those beaches are supposed to also be incredible. But one of the ones that we knew, there's a couple we knew we had to hit. Playa Sucia, which is on the very southern tip of Puerto Rico. We didn't end up going there because it was a little further off the beaten path. And by this point is the third day. We knew that we had to do a whole bunch of driving the day after. So we were like, let's do a close one. And we remembered we heard really good things about Playa Buye. And, you know, if you had a beach experience that checked all the boxes for beaches that you really want to enjoy, this had it. Number one with... it wasn't that hard to get to. It was 15 minutes from the place we were staying. And the parking was free. And the parking was close to the beach. So it didn't take a giant hike to lug all of our beach equipment with us. Our chairs, our umbrella, our provisions, our waters, our cooler. And the other great thing was this beach, which is a long strip along the coast, has trees throughout most of the top part of it. So there's a walking path and there's plenty of shade everywhere. So you can set your stuff down in the shade. And then the calmest, most crystal, beautiful water. You can see right through it for quite a while. There was just something about Playa Buye. It was so perfect. There weren't really that many waves. I mean, the water is so calm on the West Coast. Maybe it was just this time of year. But I could sit in that pool, and we did sit in that water for hours and hours and hours. Probably longer than you should spend in the ocean if you've got a cheap-ass bathing suit from Target. But I'll be upgrading that very soon. Don't need to get into too many details. So, checking off the boxes, Playa Buye had perfect water, perfect temperature. There were no rocks. It was just sand. You could walk in and get knee deep real quick, get, about waist deep even quicker. And it could float. You could swim. It wasn't very crowded. Being there on a weekday in the middle of May was pretty darn incredible. And you had shade if you wanted to get out and lie out there. It was a perfect weather day. It was less hot than it had been, but it was still pretty hot. But it felt so good in the water. And then if you walk up just a little bit, what do they have? Well, there's a little food stand. So we could get some pinchos, which they had chicken pinchos. So it was, barbecue chicken on a stick. Can't go wrong with that. And we got an empanada for our friend. And a couple hours later, the beach bar opened. And you could go over and you could get a mojito or you could get a pina colada. And then you could walk back to the beach and you could refresh yourself. There was even a guy, and I love this. I love the ingenuity, and I love the vendors that you see. There are so many street vendors all around Puerto Rico, and there are even street vendors wandering up and down the beach. So there was a guy just walking around with a cooler going, "Mojito!" And you could pay this guy, and it's not like he had a pre-bottled mojito or mojito in a bag. No, he had liquor bottles and fixins, and he would make you a mojito right there. How cool was that? And then didn't even expect this, was so excited about this, is a guy starts walking up and talking to everybody. "Hey, how are you doing? I make fresh ceviche. Would you like to buy some?" "Yes, we would, please." So we had king crab ceviche, and it was sitting on the beach, looking at the ocean and eating fresh caught, fresh prepared ceviche. Oh, that was special. For as much of a seafood fan as I am, it was a bastion being on the west coast of Puerto Rico and enjoying just how good some of the seafood was there. So I've got my mojitos and I've got my ceviche and I've got my beach day. We were there probably for 6 hours. It's the longest I've ever spent at just one beach hanging out all day. The weather was magical. That beach was perfection. It was empty enough that you could feel like you had your own little stretch to yourself. It was just a perfect, magical day. So my big recommendation, I would say the best beach I've ever been to is Playa Buye in Cabo Rojo, the west coast of Puerto Rico. The close second is Napili Bay on Maui, because that's where I went last year. And we could swim in that ocean every single day. And we were staying near there. And you could walk over to the bar in Apili Kai and you could watch the waves. Oh, that was incredible too. It's a real close second. Like, I'm sure if I go back to Maui next year, I'm like, no, Maui was better. But, you know, we have some pretty incredible treasures that are not too far away. You know, Puerto Rico is about an 8-hour flight from LA, but it's only a 3-hour flight from, not 2.5-hour flight from Miami. And then the West Coast was a little bit of a drive, like 2 hours. But once you're there, it is special. You feel like you're in a completely different world. Now, the West Coast, you might need to know a little Spanish. My wife is fairly fluent, so that worked out pretty well. But I think you can get around. You know, you got your gracias, you got your buenos, you got your, you know, money is money. So I think you can get around pretty well. But that is the best beach that I have ever been to. So if you ever are going to Puerto Rico, look up videos when you get home of Playa Buye, B-U-Y-E. Oh my, is it fantastic. Let's go to Dave in Tustin. Dave, hello.
Hey, Randy, happy Friday again.
Happy Friday.
This is my second call in. Hey, I want to go to Puerto Rico. Hey, Half Moon Cay in the Bahamas.
Half Moon Cay in the Bahamas.
It's a stop along the way if you're on a Bahama cruise. They don't give you enough time, but white sand, clear blue water. They even have friendly people walking up and down the beach with beer coolers who will even sell you a beer.
Now that sounds pretty delightful.
It was quite wonderful. I went for my anniversary with the love of my life in February, and it's a beautiful place, man. And I love this topic. I'm a beach bum, and sand, surf, water, beautiful woman by your side. You can't beat that.
You really, really can't. That's all the things that you need to make life perfect. And you disconnect from all the nonsense that's going on in the world, and you connect to what really matters.
And not to mention jumbo coconut shrimp.
That is one of life's great treats.
Hey, man, I just wanted to put my ad on your campaign, so have a blessed weekend. Take care.
Hey, you too, Dave. Have a great, incredible long weekend. Thanks for the suggestion. Half Moon Cay in the Bahamas. I got to do the Bahamas at some point. Now I'm addicted. And, my friend who went with us, she's like, we got to try all the Caribbean islands. We got to see what we think of all of them. But Puerto Rico is a real great start. In fact, it's American territory. You don't even need a passport to get there. But boy, I'm only telling you so far about my experiences on the West Coast. When we come back, I will tell you about my experiences in San Juan, which is one of the oldest cities in the United States because it's over 500 years old. It was a Spanish colony for years and years and years until the Spanish-American War. And boy, is there so much culture there, so much food. And it's got one of my favorite things. It's a walking around town. You walk everywhere in Old San Juan, and it is spectacular. We'll get to that and more of your phone calls. Tell me about the best beach you've ever been to. I told you about mine in Playa Buye in Puerto Rico. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're talking beaches, and I'm telling you about my vacation to Puerto Rico. Oh, if you've never been. Between the beaches, the people are so nice in Puerto Rico. The food, the culture, oh, it is a magical, magical place, and I will definitely be back. If you'd like to email us, you could do so, randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. I'm asking about the best beaches you've ever been to. Maria writes in, you got to go to Punta de Mita, about a 40-minute drive north of Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. Sandy beaches, perfect for swimming. And make sure you eat at Teresa's Tacos. Well, now I got to look up Punta de Mita, and it looks pretty darn gorgeous. I have not explored the beaches in Mexico, and at some point I really need to. I get a little worried, like, is it safe? I don't know, but I'm sure if you go to the resort areas, it is. But wow. I'm looking at the pictures. That looks pretty fantastic. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. I'll tell you what Old San Juan was like when we get back. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. I'm telling you about my vacation to Puerto Rico and how magical it was. We spent the first half on the West Coast exploring the beaches of Cabo Rojo, my favorite being Playa Bulle. But after a few days, we finally drove back, dropped off our Jeep to make sure once we got to Old San Juan where we were staying at a hotel right in the middle of Old San Juan called Palacio Provincial, which you can see it on Expedia. It's a lovely hotel and you can walk everywhere. You know, that's one of my favorite things is walking all over the place in Old San Juan. It is enchanting. The fact that every building is painted a different color. You have all this beautiful Spanish architecture that has some French influences, that has some American influences. The fact that the town is surrounded by these old fortifications from the forts, from wars from the 1500s and the 1600s. It is just a fascinating, gorgeous place. Here's the best advice I can give you, because we were thinking about, we wanted to not just walk around, but we wanted to learn about the history. There is so much history in Old San Juan. And there's actually a website called the Old San Juan Free Walking Tour, osjfreetour.com. It is 100% free. You can tip the person who's giving the tour afterwards, and we tipped them quite well. This was the most fun for 3 hours. From 10 a.m. to almost 1 p.m., we were walking around Old San Juan, learning about everything from this woman, Carmen, who was the best tour guide, telling us not only about the history, not only about the culture, about the food. She even did a little salsa dance instruction. She also told us about some of her favorite places to visit, her favorite restaurants. Based on her recommendation, she told us to go to a place in the north part of town where the tourists don't usually go to get, oh boy, there's a lot of street food. There's a lot of fried food in Puerto Rico. And my favorite fried food that I had in Puerto Rico was an alcapurria. An alcapurria is like a fried meat fritter. And it's not fried with like flour dough or even corn masa. It's made with yucca root, and they fill it with different kinds of meat. This thing was massive. It was like a gigantic hot dog on a stick with ground meat inside. It was really, really tasty. Had that with a fresh pina colada. And there are so many different kinds of really high-end restaurants. And you can get Puerto Rican food. At some point, you will want to try something else. We actually had dinner at an Argentinian steakhouse in Old San Juan, El Viejo Almacén. And oh, was that incredible. My wife and I shared this. I can only really call it a meat plate because it's meant for two, and there's short rib on there, and there's also New York steak on there, and there's also all this other kind of steak on there. It was really good time. And then our appetizer was a sausage plate. So sausage plate founded by the steak plate. Really, really great. Got to have some Argentinian wine, which was a nice little break from the mojitos and the pina coladas. I got to tell you, I am a 100% convert on mojitos. And my plan was, once we got back to the mainland, was I bought some mint. I already have some rum in my bar area. I'm going to learn how to make the perfect mojito. And then I got sick on the way back, so I haven't had a thing to drink since last Saturday. So hopefully that'll change later this weekend, but it's okay. Once I'm ready, I will make the mojitos. The last night we were there, we were wandering around town, and there's just music playing everywhere. There's block parties. There's people just playing salsa music in the middle of a square. You feel so enchanted. And even though it's really hot during the day, and if you go early in the year, it's probably better, but at night, wandering around, and you feel completely safe in Old San Juan. It is a very safe city, and wandering around at night, just having a great time. It feels like you're in Bourbon Street with way less drunk people. And I haven't been to Bourbon Street, but that's another one of the things I'm going to do this year. I really want to go to New Orleans. We'll talk about that another time. But we went to this Italian restaurant, and they had this fresh seafood pasta that I'm still thinking about. We had a lot of lobster in Puerto Rico, a lot of fresh lobster. It was really, really great. I cannot talk about enough about how much of a good time we had. And I'm going to be looking around, finding places where I can get Puerto Rican food in Los Angeles. There's got to be a couple, because I've got a taste for mofongo. I've got a taste for tostones. I've got a taste for alcapurrias, although that food can get a little heavy. I think next time I would probably lean more into the ceviche and the fresh fish, which there is plenty of. Well, before we get out of here, let's take one more call. We're talking happy hour and your favorite beaches. Let's go to George in Long Beach. George, hello.
Hey, Randy, you got to try Cuban cuisine. There's a lot of great places here, but the reason why I'm actually calling is I got a bone to pick with one of your callers from several weeks ago. His name is my arch nemesis, Nathan Hawkmiss.
Oh, is this George Gascon? Are you calling me again?
Yes, it's me, Randy. Randy, you know what? He challenged me to a duel. He says he wants to, I remember his exact words. He told you and John, he said, meet me here Saturday night at my kitchen table. You know what? I'll take it on. I'll take on the challenge, and I'm willing to be there. I'll challenge him to a duel.
Sounds good, George. Have a great weekend, Mr. Gascon. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all have an incredible Memorial Day weekend. You'll hear a best of this show on Monday, but I picked it. It's going to be a great one, and I'll see you live on Tuesday. John will be back as well, so we'll have live John Phillips Show, live News Blitz, all of that happening on Tuesday. I hope you got a little taste of what Puerto Rico is like, and if you've ever thought of going, I cannot recommend it enough. And you can email me for any more specific recommendations like where I stayed at randykabc@gmail.com. This isn't an endorsement or anything. I just think it was really fun, and you should try it out. I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody. It's the News Blitz on KABC.